Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest is Anna. She lives in Central Florida, right down the road from where I am. She is a cardiac nurse originally from Flint, Michigan. She's engaged, she's a dog mom, and she is into a lot of different fandoms that we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Anna.
Thank you.
Now, I said before when we were talking off the recording that your name is Anna, and I referenced Frozen. And what did you tell me?
Everyone tells me that, but I've never actually seen the movie.
Womp womp womp. Anna, who lives in Central Florida, has not obviously been immersed in the Disney fandom as much as she should be.
No, not at all.
Not at all. But that is okay, because there's a lot of people that live here in Orlando that aren't into Disney either. But my family and I will continue to go and support the house that the mouse built for as long as we can.
I'm gonna get out there. I've been once. I'm gonna get out there again eventually.
I hope so. Well, Anna, how would you describe fandom?
Well, I think I would pretty much say that it's like a something that like a group of people or like not we can all relate to, like different type things that we share in common and that we like to talk about, or that can bring us together as friends. Like an example of like I love Harry Potter, and actually my two best friends that I've been friends with for almost 10 years, I happened to walk into a vending machine. I happened to hear them talking about Harry Potter, and I just like jumped into their conversation, and we've been friends ever since.
So what you're telling me is that you jumped into someone else's conversation just because they were talking about something that you liked? Yes. How dare you?
Actually, that happens often.
You just get yourself inserted into other people's conversations?
Yes, and the funny thing is that I'm not like really like a talker. I don't normally talk to strangers. Like I'm a nurse and I don't really like to talk to. It's easier for me to talk to patients than it is like regular people. And but when I hear someone talk about something that I'm interested in or that I know something about, I get really excited and I join in.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. I think more people should do that, because then we'd have more people that we're connected to.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, you just said that you love Harry Potter. Is that the only fandom you like, or is there other ones that you're into?
There are lots of others. I think that's just like probably since like second or third grade, that's just been like something that I've really latched on to. I've loved it since I've like the books, as I've grown up with the books coming out. That's just one of my like go-to fandoms. I probably love the most, my number one. But I love Doctor Who. I love Lord of the Rings, and I love let's see. It's funny, but I really love Twilight still, even though like the hype has died down. I've been like a fan since the beginning. And I also love the Mortal Instruments. Now I love the book series. There's a TV show that was adapted from the books that I have not seen because I was very disappointed in the movie. I guess I should give the TV show a chance. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, you are busy being a nurse.
Yes.
I mean, I speak from experience, having married a nurse, that schedules and being a nurse is absolutely bonkers, and no one will ever understand it. Well, let's talk about Harry Potter first. And the first question that I ask whenever I talk to someone who is in the Harry Potter fandom is, what house are you?
Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff, yes. You have joined the illustrious ranks of those on my podcast who are also Hufflepuffs. Welcome to the club.
Thanks. Yeah, I love it. At first I was, the first when I was first sorted into Hufflepuff, I was a little bit apprehensive and I tried to take the test again so that I could get something else, but then I realized like seeing the different characters like who are actually Hufflepuff and their characteristics like from the test, that really is like my personality, and that would be even, and when I did take it again with another email address, I still got Hufflepuff.
So you took the test again with a different email
Yes,
address.
I'm a Hufflepuff through and through.
Okay. I know I always tell a story that when I was younger, because when I read Harry Potter, it was in my college years,
Mhm.
and I was definitely more Ravenclaw at that time, but I'm totally Hufflepuff. Like there's nothing that I could never be a Ravenclaw at this point. I'm definitely not a Gryffindor, nor am I a Slytherin.
Yeah.
So, with Harry Potter, we've got the house. Now, are you a Harry Potter fan? Do you love Ginny? Do you love Hermione? Who's your favorite character?
Um, I think it's like split. I would say I could split it by the sexes. My favorite female character would be Hermione, of course, because she is the brightest witch of her age. I absolutely love her because of everything that she stands for. She's strong, she's witty, she's smart, and like as a woman, that's something like we all inspire to be, and she's like not afraid to like show that off. Like in the beginning, when her character is like coming into herself, you could see that she wasn't. I just think of the first movie when she was very sad that people made fun of her, of course. But I just see a lot of myself or what I aspire to be in Hermione. And people might think that's funny because it's a fictional character, but it's true. And I think my male favorite character would be Neville because man, he Neville's just great. Like the person that he grew into be from this shy guy in his turtle shell, and he grew up to be this brave guy who stood up for himself and for others, and that was just awesome to see him grow.
A- Absolutely. That is my favorite character, Neville Longbottom. He is the one. I always say that I tend to track towards the characters that are like the sidekicks or the background characters.
Yeah.
And that was like for me, that was Neville. Neville was always one of those super underrated characters. Like he's on the periphery. He's not the trio, but he's on that outside kind of looking in up until like Order of the Phoenix.
Mhm.
And then he like you don't ever realize how close he came to being like the one that Voldemort could have gone after
Exactly.
instead of Harry Potter.
Yes, his whole back when you learn his backstory, which I wish they would have like touched more on in the movie, it was like it was crazy. I couldn't He could have easily been Harry Potter. I would have still loved him as well. It's just great. I love what she did with Neville.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love it floats around on the internet and I always catch it on one of those like Harry Potter Facebook pages. They share the different stories and it's like Harry Potter was chosen, but so was Neville with that choice that Voldemort made. Neville was chosen to be the one that stayed at school while Harry Potter's doing all the hunting for the Horcruxes.
Mhm.
Neville's the one that was chosen. He stays at school. He fights against the like the Death Eaters and the people that are opposing the Order, and he's really the one that keeps that seventh year together while Harry and Hermione and Ron are off on that last adventure before coming back to the school, before coming back to the Battle of Hogwarts.
Yes.
Like by choosing Harry, Voldemort also chose Neville to be almost in that role, and it took a while, but between him like and his growth over the years, like he really grew into who he was meant to be.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I actually was reading something, I think it was last week about it, and it's just like older. as the characters are older, and it touched on Neville as a professor at Hogwarts, and how based from his experience as a child, how he was that professor that made sure that kids weren't afraid to speak out in his class, or speak out to do different things. And one thing that really like hit home for me is like Neville made sure that there was never another teacher that turned up as a boggart for another student. And I thought that was pretty cool because Snape was his like biggest fear.
Right. Like you don't want the kids to be afraid of the
Yeah.
teachers.
I just thought that was awesome because I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's Neville. Even though this is like some fan made thing, like it was what Neville was. It's who he is as a person.
That is so true. What is your favorite book of the series?
Oh man. Maybe it's The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay, that's mine too.
I think that's it.
Do you have a reason why, or are you just picking that out of the air?
Because I absolutely love Sirius Black.
Okay.
Coming into that, man, and it's always those characters that you like really love, like they go away, and
Yep.
I just from like the moment, even though like he's not introduced as a character that's good, I loved him from the beginning of him being introduced into the series. Like maybe he's this misunderstood guy, and he actually was. But that's a whole nother issue that I have. Like I sort of not Voldemort in this case, but I like the villains a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
like feel bad for the villains, and like like Loki. I absolutely love Loki. Everybody loves Loki, but I really do. Like I understand his reasons for being bad.
Right, right. Yeah, it's hard to really go for some of those bad characters in the Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, can you really feel bad for Dolores Umbridge?
Oh my
No,
gosh, no. No,
no, you
that's
can't.
probably like like growing up as a child, like you want someone to die. That's pretty bad. But like you just want her to like everybody else is dying. You like, why can't she die?
Now, have you read The Cursed Child yet?
No, I haven't. I read the first few pages when I was back home, and I have not finished because I've been so busy getting things together for school, and then I started school. But from what I read, it was like the first few pages that I read, they were absolutely great. Um, I think I would. Have you read it?
I have. I actually there's a podcast episode out now that focuses all about it, but it is all spoilers.
Oh, okay.
So
So I shouldn't listen.
shouldn't listen until you've read it.
I've only known as much as it's not far. Um, that with Harry's son who's in Slytherin, and
Hmm.
he's just I don't know if he's gonna be bad or not, but it's sort of scaring me a little bit. So, but I like the fact that his friend that he's actually befriended someone who everybody hates. That's what I do like about that. But I want to know where that's going. And there was like a rumor that with a time turner that I was seeing, and I really want to read it because I want to know what's going on with that, like if it's true or not.
Well, you'll have to read it. I'm not spoiling anything for you. It's a good thing that when you were picking podcasts to listen to, you didn't pick that
Oh
one.
my gosh, yeah, I would have still listened because you want to know, but you don't.
Right. Like that was my problem is I d- I held off on purchasing it for like a probably a couple days when it came out, and then everyone was just talking about it with their opinions. I said I have to just get it and read it. I think I read it within like 3 hours because it's really quick
Yeah.
because it's the script instead of a like an actual novelization of it,
Hmm.
and it's just so easy. It's a lot easier to read. It goes by a lot quicker. And I think the best thing, which is a non spoiler, the best thing about it is after being out of the Harry Potter universe for so long, it's nice to have a Harry Potter book in your hand to kind of just go back to that universe.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's
Like
like
back in.
reconnecting with an old friend.
Yes. That's actually a perfect way to put it.
Now, with Harry Potter, we always talk about any character that you might feel is underrated. Do you have a character that you feel is underrated or that really doesn't get the attention that they should have gotten?
From the Harry Potter fandom.
Yes.
Uh, you know, well, of course, Neville was very underrated, but Luna, I really like Luna Lovegood, and I feel like we didn't see as much of her as as much of who she was as a person, her character, as we
Hmm.
could have. And that was actually with a couple. Um, I would have liked to see more like Percy. I would have
Hmm.
liked, even though I didn't like him, I would have liked to see, why he was the way that he was. Like he was completely opposite from his family. They didn't really seem to share the same views. And I just wanted to know like more in like his background and why he chose the route that he did, made some of those choices.
Yeah, Percy is definitely one where he does not he almost doesn't feel like a Weasley
Yeah.
of the seven children that they have. Like Percy is not that really standout Weasley guy.
And I wonder if it's like because if he's like embarrassed to be a Weasley, if like he just if he wants to be better, I don't really know. I just know that I didn't like him.
I don't think a lot of people liked him, but I hope that eventually people saw the qualities in him that made him okay
Yeah.
overall.
Yes. And it seemed to close that way, like coming to a close. A lot of those characters that you were iffy about. Oh my gosh! And one of those being Snape. I let me just tell you, I totally cried, and that is like, I'm totally not ashamed to admit that I cried when Dobby died, I cried when Dumbledore died, and I cried for Snape. And I cried for Snape before he died because I felt like, oh my gosh, he's all this time I've been hating him, and I feel so bad.
That's an interesting thing because I know that there's two sides of the Snape coin. There's the people that really love Snape and put him on that pedestal
Yeah.
of being that character like, oh, he did it because he was in love and he was just, doing what he had to do. And then there's the other side where just Snape is Snape and you just don't like the guy.
And I can see that because, he was harboring this love for someone, and it was almost like spite because he hated James, but here he has his son here and he has to protect him. But and even still in the end, I wasn't sure if he loved Harry or not. And
Right.
that is sort of iffy, but everything that he went through, he had a rough life, and it's just like I came to understand him more. And I'm like, man, you know, even though he loved this woman and he hated his dad, and he probably hated Harry too a little bit because he was a brat at some points, but he still did all that for him. He made so many sacrifices, and I just thought that even if he was not completely a good guy, that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other fandoms that you mentioned is one that I've consistently, when I've had guests on and they get to this fandom, it's one that I'm not familiar with, and that is Doctor
Oh
Who.
my gosh.
And I,
Doctor.
I've been told that I need to watch certain episodes to get me into one being Blink, and like I need to watch that to see what Doctor Who's about, and then go back and start watching it. How did you get into Doctor Who?
Um, and I would recommend not just coming into a season because you'd be completely lost. And even though you might like what you see, like it sort of
Hmm.
throws you off. So if you're gonna
Okay.
do it, just jump into it. I came into it because actually no one had told me about it. I watch Netflix a lot, and I just kept seeing it up there, so I just watched it. It was just like a random thing. I work with a at the when I worked at a nursing home, I worked with a woman who was from England, and I'd actually heard her mention it a couple times, but had no clue what she was talking about. And she really liked Tom Baker, who was another doctor. And when I finally watched it, I asked her if that was what she was talking about, and so we've become really good friends based from that. But I came into Doctor Who with the Ninth Doctor, and I think that's where they sort of rebooted the whole series because it was really older.
Right.
But I absolutely loved it. Like the first episode, I really don't know how to pronounce his last name. Christopher, I think is Eccleston or something like that.
Yep.
But he's just great. He's like perfectly like just an odd man, and he only got that one go, but I absolutely loved it. He made me love the Doctor. And it's like loving Doctor Who, it's like it's a love-hate type of thing because you love the Doctor, and then when a new Doctor has to come in, you hate that Doctor, and then you start to love him. At least that's what I do anyway, because the Doctor has to change.
Right.
But yeah, the Ninth Doctor, it was actually the first episode, unless you go back into old school Doctor, that you'll be able to see. And I suggest you start from there because it's so odd. It'll reel you right in, though.
I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, I would catch Doctor Who because it's something that is in my memory. I remember like the cheesy
Yes.
costumes from that time period and the way it was, and I remember some of the stuff, but it was never something I watched as a kid. I was always more into like show me Darkwing Duck or some of those classic 80s cartoons like Silverhawks or Thundercats,
Yeah.
Voltron. uh so I never watched it. I think it was more like I was flipping channels or waiting for something to come on, and it would be on for like the last 5 minutes or whatever. And then it's never been a show where I mean, I always have so much like stuff to watch anyway,
Hmm.
where I'm trying to make that choice, and it's like, oh well, Doctor Who. There's so many episodes of Doctor Who. Where do I start? How do I get into it? I know one of my previous guests had suggested the route, which I said was to watch Blink and then start with the series. But you are recommending starting from the Ninth Doctor.
Yes. And I've gone back and started from the very first Doctor, but I think that if you aren't already a fan, or if you aren't a fan of black and white, you
Mm-hmm.
might not like it.
Gotcha. Now, along with the Doctor, there's always these side characters that tag along with the Doctor, and they're called companions.
Yes.
And I know there's some really popular ones, and I know there's some not so popular ones. Do you have a favorite companion?
Um, I, oh my gosh, I don't know. I think I sort of do. I love River Song. And oh my gosh, if you actually do watch it, the whole deal with River Song will blow your mind. It is just absolutely crazy. But I love her because she is like the Doctor's like other half. He's like she can keep him in line. She can tell him what to. Nobody else can tell him what to do, but River Song like runs the show, and I just think that I love her. I just think it's absolutely great.
Okay. And is there a particular season that you enjoy better than others? I mean, besides like the season with the Ninth Doctor or the 10th Doctor, like who or what season is your favorite? Like which Doctor season, if that's even a thing?
Uh, well, all of okay, so Hmm. I say I would really love the Tenth Doctor. Anything that he's in, I love David Tennant. And I didn't know really who David Tennant was before the Doctor. I had a film class and I'd seen him in I don't know if it was Macbeth or something. He was doing a rendition of some Shakespeare thing. I forget what it was. And I was like, "Hey, that's Barty Crouch Jr." and, and so like, oh my gosh, he's a good actor. And then when I started watching Doctor Who and I saw him, like, oh my gosh, I know I'm gonna love this show. And I fell in love with him, and they kept him around for so long. And then when he finally did have to go, that's like one of the things about the 10th Doctor. He like says, I don't want to go, and nobody wants him to go. Like, I cried. so hard when the 10th Doctor transformed.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah, it was very, very sad.
I know when they change doctors, I always have friends that are like, why are they changing the
Yes.
doctor? I love the doctor. But then inevitably, like you said, it takes some time to grow to love the doctor, or have him go through whatever he's going through in the season. Like by mid-season, they're like, okay, I like the doctor, or I'm really enjoying it.
Yes. That's exactly what happens, and I felt that way. Like I felt that way with the 11th Doctor. I just thought, who is this young guy? I don't know if I like him. Everybody likes him. He looks crappy to me, and I couldn't understand him at first. And then he really grew on me, and I loved him. And people make jokes because he's Matt Smith. He's like his eyebrows like disappear sometimes, and I just think it's just like one of those adorable things about him as a person, as a doctor. It's just so cute. But when the 12th, not the 12th Doctor, is it? Yes. When he came along and he's older, um, that really a lot of people really didn't like that, and I thought that was just awful because of course you hate the doctor changing, but people were really upset because he's an older doctor, and I'm thinking to myself, the doctor is hundreds and thousands of years old anyway. So you have this guy who actually could sort of look the doctor's age, and he turned out to be great. He actually turned out to be exactly what the doctor didn't want to be. Like when the doctor's going to change, he's like, "Oh, don't make me a ginger or, or Scottish." And then you
That's
have this
funny.
guy, he's just a joy. I really like him.
When I asked you what fandoms you're into, there's one that sticks out. It actually stuck out when I got my pre-questionnaire back from you, because either no one admits to it, or they keep it a secret, or it gets the rap that it does.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the sparkly vampire series Twilight.
Yes. And
Now, I want to preface this, because there was a time when I was starting this podcast, and I was going to be like, I'm never going to have anybody talk about Twilight on the podcast. But then that's not fair, because Twilight is a strong fandom. There's people that love it for the reasons that they do.
mhm.
I'm not going to discriminate. So here I am. You are my first person that I get to talk to Twilight about. I will be upfront that I read, I think, a total of 3 chapters or 4 chapters in the first book. I threw it down on the ground and said, I can't read this, because it was like, to me, it was very poorly written. Um, my wife has seen, I think, all of the movies, maybe, or maybe she didn't see the last one. Uh, I think she made it through all the books. I'm not sure, but
She
hit
made it.
hit hit me with Twilight. Like, how did you get into it? Why do you like it? Just let's do this.
Um, well, I own them all. And how did I get into Twilight? You it's really not, I guess it's not really strange, but how I find different series a lot of the time is I'll like Google the bestsellers list, and I'll look at like the synopsis of the book, and I'm like, okay, well, I think I'll try that, which is also how I got into a couple other series like um the Hunger Games and the, I think it's the Maze Trials or something like that.
Oh, the Maze Runner.
Yes, and that's how I also found those. But that's how I found Twilight, and I thought, oh, I'll give this a chance. I like vampires and this sort of thing. And it was not what I expected, but it wasn't absolutely horrible. I find myself like falling in love with the characters, and not because it's a love story, because of, first off, I was in high school, and like the characters that I was reading about, I could see like those different people in my everyday world.
Right.
And it maybe sound a little strange. I've never heard anyone else put it this way, but like when people think of vampires, like I don't always think of like blood sucking vampires. I like when I was reading Twilight, everybody who was a blood sucking vampire, they could have related in another way to me in my life. Like different people who like drain your energy, or different people who like are just
Hmm.
suck to be around or are really great to be around. Like I didn't pull it. I didn't fall in love with them because they were sparkly vampires. I fell in love with them for their characters.
Okay.
Which I will argue this, like I will defend this to like the very end. My love for Twilight, I will they are not sparkly like diamond as they put in the as they put in the movie. They're like glittery things. I absolutely hated that, by the way. They're like shimmer like some bad lip gloss, and I hated that. I always thought of them like if you were to see a statue that's sort of like glistening. I thought that's what it would be like, not like actual shimmery glitter.
Okay.
So when people make
Well,
fun
that's
of
fair
it's
enough. I
really
mean, you get you sometimes when people read it, they have that mental image of something, and then someone else reads it and they have the mental picture of something
yes.
else. Now, you got into Twilight in high school.
Hmm.
Are you still into Twilight? Is that something where you'll revisit the series either through books or by watching the movies again?
Yes. Yes. I think I am a Twilight fan for life. I don't have the posters hanging anymore, but yes, I used to I still have everything, but it used to probably used to scare my mom. I had the posters, and but you know what? They have some really good soundtracks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of movie soundtracks are always really well done. I know the Twilight one had some good stuff on it. Now, are you, and this is the hard-hitting question on Tales from the Fandom Twilight edition at this point, are you Team Jacob or Team Edward?
I am Team Switzerland. I could never choose between the two because there was a point where I thought Edward was an absolute jerk for leaving. Um, and that's another thing, like as an adult, like because I was in high school, but I was in when I started to understand the story in a different way, I was like becoming an adult, and
Mm-hmm.
I could see like what the author describes as like this great like it's this the black hole of depression basically that she goes into, and it's not like said that way, but she basically wants to kill herself. This
Right.
guy has left her life and it's caused her to want to kill herself. And so I hated him for a while, but I understood her, like her being drawn to him, and I also really really loved Jacob. So I couldn't choose.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say Team Switzerland before.
Oh, but that's the thing. Actually, you'd have to meet an actual fan because that's what Bella is in the book. She calls herself Switzerland because she's always trying to be neutral between the two.
The things I learn every day from doing this podcast. Now, do you have like a favorite book of the series or movie? Like, do you love the books more than the movies?
um, yes, I do love the books more than the movies. I would say my favorite is New Moon. And I think that's because you start to starts to get into the werewolf sort type of thing, but then I'm one of those people that can argue that they weren't exactly werewolves; they were shapeshifters. So
Okay.
that's another thing with that.
And of course, we have a Harry Potter crossover as our noble leader of the Hufflepuff House, Cedric Diggory, goes from dead by Voldemort to resurrected as Edward Cullen, sparkly vampire king, or teenage heartthrob.
Yeah.
Did you like the casting for the movies? Was it something where you're like, oh yeah, they definitely got it right, or were there ones where they were hits and misses?
Um. Yeah, they actually a couple. I really liked. I like. Now thinking back, I probably wish they would have chose someone else as Bella, because I like Kristen Stewart. I just don't think she was very good at portraying the way the book described Bella to be. Like I think she like overdid it because Bella's supposed to be like this awkward in the background type girl who's curious about this guy who obviously is like infatuated with her. It's like basically this creepy guy who like staring at her all the time. And the way they made it look in the movie is just really painful to watch now.
Okay.
So I actually don't really like to go back and watch Twilight. The acting is just really poor. So it's I don't like to watch that one over. They could recast her, and I think they could also have done a better job with I would say Edward's sister Rosalie.
Okay.
Yeah, just a different character. I didn't expect her to be who I thought she would be in the book. But oh my gosh, who they did number one with, A+ job, was Carlisle. He was just as dreamy as you imagined him to be in the book.
Now, is that the father or is that
Yes. Peter
okay?
Facinelli, oh my gosh, he was a great actor. He looks like Carlisle.
Okay. And another series you brought up, and I just want to get to as quickly as
Hmm.
possible, is The Mortal
Yes.
Instruments. I don't believe I've read that series or watched the movie or the TV show. So what's it about? Because I know nothing.
The Mortal Instruments is like this great. It's a great series. It's a story of like they're teenagers, um, and they're like basically I don't know what you call the offspring of like angels, Nephilim.
Okay.
And number one, that's like, oh my, I never heard of that before. I actually read this book, and that blew my mind. So I'm like, oh, what can these people do? And all of the things that they can do is like they're demon hunters, and they fight the evils of the world that other people can't see, and that's just great. I love like the science fiction part of that. But what I really loved about this series is being like a spiritual person, not really like tied to like a specific religion, is that they took these religious values and they put it intertwined it into these books in ways that people could understand, and that was pretty cool to me. And then they make a movie and they turn it into some love story, and it just threw me completely off. Which I just think that it was a way for them to reach the masses, I suppose, because everybody loves that love story. But I think they had something really great into tying religion into science fiction, into all these other different things that are great, and then they blew it. It's just really, it's a really great series. If you ever get to I would say like you could watch the movie. You could probably get the gist of it. But I hated what they did in the movie to turn into a love story, because in later on in the book you find out that these two main characters are like related.
Okay.
So that's why I really hate what they turned it into. So yeah, that really sucked.
Okay. So you would definitely recommend, at least for the movies and books, to go the book route.
Yes, I would say if you are a reader, to definitely go the book route first. I think there's about six of them. It starts with City of Bones, and it's just great writing. She's a great writer. I really love her, and she actually has a few books that predate what happens with the Mortal Instruments. And they're really great too. And what I really love about it is, especially what I love about Doctor Who too, is that everybody's involved. It doesn't matter what color you are. There's gay people, there's weird people, there everybody, and it doesn't like it's not they're not hated. It's everybody's a part of the crew, and that's what I really love about that. I love the inclusion when people write about it and when people include it in their TV shows. I love that inclusion.
Okay. Well, I really want to get to this next part because obviously it's how I found you to be on the podcast, and that is through
Oh
cosplay.
yeah, I almost forgot.
And how could you forget? Now, I found you on Instagram, like I have done with a lot of the guests that I've had on this show. And I don't remember if I found you that you had maybe commented on somebody's post, and I was like, oh, you made a comment, let me check out who this person is. Or maybe a lot of the times I was just scrolling through people's pictures and I was like, oh wow, like your cosplays are pretty cool, and you live in Central Florida, which, I always try to find homegrown or local people that I can like talk to, because time zones are always fun to play with. And you're here and I'm here, and we can kind of sync things up as far as schedules go. And so how did you get into cosplay?
Um, Cosplay is one of those things that I've always really liked costuming and dressing up. Um, but I didn't get into it until I moved to Florida from Michigan, and there are there are a lot of conventions there, but number one, I grew up pretty poor, so I didn't have like the means to go to these conventions, and I didn't have any friends that want to go with me.
Okay.
And I still don't have the friends that want to go with me, so I just drag my fiance around everywhere. But it was one of those things that I saw an ad for what was it? I think it was Lakeland Fanboy, and I was like, well, I should just try it. And the previous year, I dressed up as Gamora for Halloween, so
Hmm.
I just sort of revamped that and made it into, because I really love Gamora, made it into this sort of thing, and I just tried it out. It's one of those things I just really had to go for, because for years I'd seen other people doing it, and other people like doing it like necessarily didn't look like me, like being a person of color. I didn't really see a lot of cosplayers where I was from, but when I moved to Florida, it's everybody, and I absolutely love that. I see so many more people, and representation is important, because even though I love these different characters, sometimes you get that, well, why do you want to play this character that doesn't match you? But
Hmm.
so what? I really like this character, so I'm gonna, dress up as her. And
Absolutely.
it's just sort of one of those things I just really had to jump into, being like an introvert and a person that's already like really shy around other people. I just had to jump into it.
Now, how do you choose the characters that you want to be? Is it based on the fact that you like the character? Is it based on the costume itself, and you're like, well, I like the costume, so I'm going to be that character? Is it a mixture of both?
Um, I think it's a mixture of both. I think maybe it leans more towards I really like this character, and then I try to find like the best representation of them that I can either make, that I feel comfortable wearing, and I try to do that. I guess my first one that I could think of is my fiance plays a lot of League of Legends, and I played some, but I'm not really good at it. And he
Hmm.
really liked Nidalee, but Nidalee has is I love the character, but a lot of times she's like scantily clad. So I really had to find an one of her variations that I felt comfortable creating and wearing. And it actually ended up being my very first armor build. And I haven't really built much of anything, so I guess it's my first of everything. And it turned out really well. It was really hot though, but I think you really have to be comfortable with the way that you look to
Right.
do it.
Okay. Is there a favorite cosplay that you've done that you've actually completed and worn, whether it be Nidalee or a different character?
I think that my favorite cosplay that I've worn is Gamora. It's just so taxing with the green skin,
Hmm.
but she is absolutely my favorite. She's probably, yeah, I think she is my favorite character. Um, it's just I'm very bad at weapon
Okay.
making, so I have not been able to make her sword yet, no matter how hard I try. That was the same issue with Wonder Woman as well. I've done a Wonder Woman cosplay, and I could not make the sword, and I'm just really bad at it. But I really love cosplaying Gamora. And maybe it's because if you don't know me, you probably wouldn't even know it was me. My skin is painted green. I have the wig on, and I have these her markings on my face, and it just gives me a chance to like really be somebody else. Like if you don't know who I am, you probably wouldn't know that I was Gamora.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I talked to Trent, who was on episode
Mhm.
15, and he's out in
Yeah.
California, and we talked about the subject of him also as a person of color, as characters that are not that color. Like he does Batman,
Yeah.
and he does certain Power Rangers that when he takes the helmet off, people are like, "Whoa, you're not what I was expecting." How has that been for you as far as a cosplayer? Because I not only is it that you're a person of color,
Mhm.
but you're also a woman,
Yes.
which it almost seems like that's like a double whammy for you at times, because I think guys maybe get a pass with things more so. At least that's from my
I
perspective after talking with people.
Mhm. Well, I think I think I remember Trent making the black man joke because I've
Yep.
heard that one too. My brother has made a joke about that. We were trying on different masks in a store, and he was black man, not Batman. But it's different. I try to see I haven't encountered too many negative people. Um, I would say that the one negative person, the it's actually sort of funny. Like some of the negativity, the little negativity that I've gotten have been from other Black people, which I find that's a trend that I've encountered growing up. But you roll with it. And I think the one like okay, you're green, so people didn't say too much about Gamora.
Okay.
Two Wonder Woman and Nidalee, the two that I've gotten negativity from. Wonder Woman, even though Wonder Woman has like I think what they call her sister in the comic book, Nubia.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they have that. So I can sort of get a pass with that one. Or some people just say I'm the black version of Wonder Woman. But I got a lot of negativity, more like hurtful negativity with Nidalee because the people who play League of Legends, they don't see Nidalee as someone with my color, so they were very like rude about it. On one of the cosplay, actually, it was a cosplay forum. They were not nice to me about Nidalee at all, and and it's just one of those things. Like you just sort of have to be confident with it. And what I said was, Nidalee has different skins. There's even one skin where she's fair skin and red hair. So I'm like, if you're really a fan of the game, you know that Nidalee has these different variations where she could be me. And I made a badass Nidalee. So I feel good about it. Like you just really have to take it there. I think like in like going along with it, it helps me to be more confident in myself because I've gotten a couple messages from other girls who say that I help them, even though I'm not a popular cosplayer. I've only been doing this for like a couple months, but
Uh-huh.
they say that I inspire them because they don't see that many girls and people of color who do it, and I've inspired them to go for that character that they want it to be. And I think that's pretty cool. That makes me feel good because that's one of like my life goals is like not even in cosplay, is to make people feel better. That's what I do in my everyday life, to make people feel better health wise, to make people feel better about themselves. And so if I can carry that on to other aspects of my life, I think that's cool. But all in all, I've gotten a lot of good feedback from cosplay. The only thing, it wouldn't even be like a color issue. It's a woman issue. Like guys who think that they can say things to you when you're in cosplay, or they can touch you. And that's another reason why I take my fiance everywhere that I go,
Mm-hmm.
because that's actually really scary. And as a woman, you shouldn't have to fear those things, but it's an issue.
Right. I know that when I attended my first convention, there were signs all over, and I knew, even beforehand, dealing with people like friends of mine that did cosplay or went to conventions, that it had been like problematic. You always heard like horror stories or stories from people about like things that have gone on, and it's hard to imagine because obviously white guy here, I can walk around basically wherever I want. I'm not harassed, I'm not anything.
Hmm.
But then I saw I don't, it wasn't like pronounced, but there were times where I was like, that's kind of like reaching the border. Now, maybe with the cosplayer who was doing it, like they like obviously they're setting like their boundaries
Hmm.
with what they would allow or not allow, but there were times where I was like, that seems like it seems like a bit much. Like,
Yes, I know what you mean.
yeah, even when I went to the cosplay alley area where they had the people like the sponsored cosplayers that came in, um, I was very aware of like, okay, hands where I can see them. I'm not gonna do anything too much. And there was one point where I was trying to get a picture of somebody, and like I did not want to touch them at all, but they couldn't hear me. They're too focused on something else, and it took a while, but finally I got their attention. But yeah, it's something where and I heard from a friend just a week or two ago that there was a lot of like boundary crossing with people are in cosplay, and whether it's the comments that people are making or like, oh, why is she wearing that, to like, oh yeah, she's so
Hmm.
she's wearing a skin tight costume. And you hear people say those rude, like the rude things, whether it's like they think it's a compliment when it's not, like
Yes. Yes. True. That is so true.
how do you deal with that, as far as like either when you're at a convention or you're in cosplay? Is it some, or even on the internet, as far as, do you just blow it off? I mean, with you going to a convention with your fiance, there's that added level of like somebody to kind of like watch out for you.
Yes. I think in person, the few comments that I've gotten, I won't repeat because they were very bad. And I don't know why any guy would feel like they could just say this to anyone because they wouldn't in a normal situation, I don't think. But they saw like the way Nidalee, the headhunter Nidalee skin, the way she's dressed, and I think I sort of, covered up a little more, but just the
Hmm.
comments that they were saying, I sort of smile and give them a thumbs up, or I give them like the look, like, I heard what you said. That's not very cool. And most of the time, they sort of turn back to their friends because maybe they didn't think I was going to hear them.
Right.
Um, they're and a lot of the times they aren't like really, I guess they could possibly be adults, but they aren't like my age or like 20s or 30s. They're like younger teenagers, and they think it's cool to impress their friends to say these things or to try to touch someone. I Italy has a skirt that I really like agonized hours over, and I felt someone lift my skirt, and I just really thought that was like absolutely awful. And I happened to behind my fiance at this point, so he didn't see what happened. But I was thinking to myself, this is awful. I almost wanted to go home, but just something like that. Like, why would you lift someone's clothing?
Right. Like,
You
where is that appropriate?
never, unless you like know them and they ask you for it, and so yeah, there's like little things like that. I hope that like goes away, but there's always going to be those pricks that think they can do whatever they want, and I just sort of like try to deal with it in a positive way because number one, I don't want to cause attention to myself, and so I just try to say, hey, or like I said before, I just give them the look or I smile at them and hurry away. Mostly smile and hurry away.
Has there been cosplays that you've wanted to do, but you stopped yourself, or it took a moment, like where you had to think about whether you wanted to do it because of you being a person of color and the character being not like what you wanted to do? I know that I've talked to a few people when they were getting into cosplay. Like one of the things was that they love Sailor Moon,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
and obviously on Sailor Moon there's no people of color, and so And it is a striking, like, that first visual of seeing someone in a sailor outfit, and you're like, what? Like, number one, the outfit was spot on of the person I saw. I was like, that is a fantastic outfit. Now, obviously, there's that, like, moment of registration of, okay, but it's so good, and the person obviously loves Sailor Moon so much. Why should anyone care?
Yeah, I get that, and Sailor Moon is actually one of them, which I was actually thinking about it yesterday. Like, when am I ever gonna like start on that? And because I liked Sailor Moon growing up, and I haven't figured out, what will be the best for me because I have seen those ugly Sailor Moon comments. But
Hmm.
another one I would say is Harley Quinn, which I really love Harley Quinn. I've always loved her. Now it's not even like just the skin issue, it's the issue that everybody's doing Harley Quinn right now.
Right.
And also another one would be Daenerys Targaryen. And the funny thing is, even my fiance is against me doing this one. He just doesn't understand. He's like, "Well, that's what Targaryens are. They're pale skin. They're really, really white." I'm like, I don't
They're,
care. I want to be Danny. But
yeah, they're pale skin with purple eyes and, like, platinum blonde hair.
yeah, and I'm like, I can do that. Because I love the character. I love her like in the beginning when she's like just this, I wouldn't say a weakling, but someone who had no control of her life and who she became to be. I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it. And I wanted to cosplay her, but I haven't gotten the courage to do it yet.
Well, hopefully, with everything that's going on, at least in the fandom convention world, and every, like, it seems, or at least, again, from my perspective, that things are slowly making the shift towards better, like, better interactions, better comments, that it's more like the negativity is kept more on the internet, which sadly has become like the wasteland for negative
Yes.
comments and trolls.
Uh-huh.
But at least in person, um, again, that it seems like things are slowly getting better, and like conventions are stepping up, and security is there, and
Mm-hmm.
it's more like, hopefully, like a one person incident, or not as much as it used to be.
Yes, and I would agree. I think that for the most part, everyone I meet at a convention, really nice. I've been to a handful, and I say there's probably just one occurrence every like the negative things that I was mentioning before all occurred in different places or online. So
Mhm.
I'm glad I'm not like one of those popular ones who are like harassed because I would have to have some super thick skin. The comments that I see absolutely crazy. Like some of the things like the names that they call I have to actually Google because I've never heard of them before.
Oh
Like,
my
why would you even
goodness.
do this to someone? It's crazy. But cosplay, I think overall is pretty positive. I'm all for body positivity, and anybody can cosplay whoever they want, big or small, or short or tall. I'm all for it because these are the characters that we love, and I like to see different people's renditions of the characters that we all enjoy. So
Absolutely. Well, Anna, I think that's all the time we have for today.
yes.
So, is there a place that people can find you online, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you've got out there?
Yes, I actually made a cosplay page on Facebook. It's Anna K Cosplay. That's ANA K Cosplay. And my Instagram is albeit Anna. I guess I should spell that for the people. It's ALBEIT_ANA. And that's not like a cosplay Instagram or anything, but that's where I share my life. So if you think I'm funny or something or cool, which hardly anybody ever thinks. But that's just I share different pictures on there.
Self-deprecating humor aside.
Yeah. Uh,
Well,
that's about it.
okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for making the time for me
No
today.
problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was fun. I'm glad that you got over your nerves
Yeah.
and we got this done. I'm pleased to have you.
It was lots of fun. I'm so glad that I did it and that you invited me. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.